The people of the United States who have an immediate moral obligation to condemn Israel's acts or collective punishment in an apartheid state.
Anti-Semite! You're an anti-Semite! It doesn't work anymore! It does not work! That CV does not work! I'm a Jew and I support Paul! My grandfather stood up for the Jews! We stood up for you when you were killed! But now, Israel is killing children!
So riddle me this. Where in America can a city council vote to condemn Israel, accuse our ally of ethnic cleansing and apartheid, and at the same time insist it's not anti-Semitic? Why, it's in California, of course, the city of Richmond. That's in the Bay Area, of course, and kind of crazy.
And if that's not enough of a FU to the Jewish people in that community, the mayor is more than happy to claim anyone who thinks it's anti-Semitic has just been ignoring what's going on in Gaza. To put it plainly, you're the problem, not him.
Joining us now to react is Fox News contributor, Sirius XM Patriot radio host David Webb, and Seattle radio host Jason Rantz. Gentlemen, good to see you both. Jason, because you're the West Coast guy, I'm going to come to you first. What the hell is going on in San Francisco where the city council feels that it's incumbent upon itself to actually condemn Israel, all the while their city is rotting underneath them?
Yeah, I think that's really important. Richmond, California is one of the most dangerous cities in all of California. These are deeply unserious and ignorant people who are desperate for attention. And so they're happy to use decapitated babies and women who were raped and young festival goers who were slaughtered to earn some sort of progressive street cred. They complain about Israeli apartheid, a word they can neither spell nor define. These people are incredibly ignorant. And I can assure you that Jewish liberals are paying attention, and may the backlash be so severe that folks like the mayor, Eduardo Martinez, and that entire council are remembered for just one thing, which is they are an utter disgrace, and they should feel nothing but shame.
Right. David, it's a sewage lagoon in Richmond, and so now their next step should just be to have their own little flag with a giant turd on it.
Yeah, look, they can flush it into the bay. By the way, I just drove by, not through Richmond last weekend, and, you know, this is the problem. You have a young group of people, when you look at the median age of 37 in the city of Richmond, so they are ripe for the picking. It's a 40% Hispanic, 20/20 white, other races, white and black. And when you look at what it is as a makeup educationally and all these other things, all Richmond is waiting to fail even more. The mayor, by the way, is a coward. He tries to walk the line of voting so you get a 5-to-1 vote. But in fact, he reflects the problem in Richmond, and to not just Jewish liberals, but to liberals around America. If you cannot stand, even if you don't like the state of Israel as it is, if you cannot stand against murder, rape, beheadings, necrophilia, and so much more that has now factually been proven as a result and as a consequence in actions taken by a Hamas terrorist army supported by Islamic Jihad, by Hezbollah with rocket fire from the north, by fire out of Syria. If you can't take a stand against that, you have no soul.
Yeah, no soul. Go to this one.
David, meanwhile, all those sports leagues that once thought it was cool to take on the social justice agenda back in 2020, and not just support, but elevate Black Lives Matter, it's long past time for them to come to their senses. A prominent Jewish group, the Coalition for Jewish Voices, demanding the NBA, NFL, and the MLB, Major League Baseball, part ways with Black Lives Matter as its anti-Semitic roots are exposed. Patrisse Cullors, what she said at Harvard back in 2015, basically, let's get rid of Israel, is what she said. David?
Well, she goes further than that. She has admitted openly, Opal Tometi as well, Alicia Garza, they are Marxist-trained activists. Notice she said that in 2015. long before Black Lives Matter really rose to prominence, although after Ferguson in 2014, that's when they really took the national stage. And in those years, and in the coming years, the NFL has pledged $1 billion, the NBA $300 million, baseball $1 million to activist causes. But for the black people out there who think that they care about you and we're not a monolithic block of Black Lives Matter, well, where are the schools, the institutions, the training programs? Where is any of the grift by Marxists who've enriched themselves, bought mansions and cars and whatever else they've done, traveled the world as celebrities? What have they actually done? The NFL leadership under Roger Goodell has been frankly disgusting as a sports league, and MLB, and also what's going on with the NBA. Come on, give me a break. This is about a grift. You've bought into it. You're fools, and black people are not being served and never have been served by Marxists.
But it's one thing if the pro teams want to give the money, and to your point, David, say we have schools and education programs, and we're going to help lift people up. That's fantastic. But to stick with Black Lives Matter, Jason, I wonder, will they actually separate? Is there too much blowback that they think they'll get if they make that separation, or too much blowback if they actually keep supporting Black Lives Matter? They're in a pickle. What do they do?
Yeah, it's lose-lose for all of them, and I'm totally okay with that. Because at the end of the day, anyone who did even a casual Google search could have seen precisely where it is that they stood. Any group that talks about oppressors versus the oppressed, they will always see Israel as the enemy. So on the one hand, they either didn't do any research and they just bought into it because they wanted to virtue signal and frankly make money off of a social justice movement, or they did know precisely what it is they were getting into and they're okay with the anti-Semitism. They're going to lose. So what I would rather them do is actually step forward and embrace Israel and actually stand for groups that are supporting Israel and be very clear that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and anyone who sides with Hamas are not just anti-Semites, but they're truly evil, dangerous people. So I would way more prefer they do that. Now, will they? No, of course not, because they're a bunch of cowards, and the people who run these organizations, they will never do anything that they think could hurt them amongst a group of potential consumers, which apparently also includes terrorist sympathizers.
Jason, they are in a pickle.
You know, if I could just add this quickly.
Quick, David.
What group of consumers, to Jason's point, are these? Because when you look at the average cost of going to a football game, a baseball game, an NBA game, and the hundreds of dollars that even a couple or a family has to spend, the average consumer, including black consumers, aren't going there. So who are you addressing, and who are you attracting to come to a game that's overpriced just to attend it?
Well said. They're in a pickle, and I don't feel bad for them either, Jason. Nope. David Webb, Jason Rantz, always fun and always insightful. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
They can all just move to China and see how that works out for them.
That'll be fun.
Thank you, guys.